In three, two, one, you are live.
Hello, 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 Santa Barbara. It's your Chantress of everything valuable and beautiful, Elizabeth Stewart. Sometimes these things happen, and you call a friend who is in the marketing of entertainment and shows. My good friend Lisa, and I said, Lisa, I had a cancellation for Thursday, Friday. I would like somebody that you know that's just a killer performer. I'd love to hear who you know. And she said, "Oh, I've got somebody that's coming to the Ojai Art Center Theater. He's going to be there November 2nd on Sunday, and it's Gale McNeeley. And Gale is a longtime performer, and he's doing a marvelous command performance of Tom Lehrer. And I've always, since I was in school in Boston, I've loved Tom Lehrer. We used to play his records. I mean, it was records, Gail, in those days. And so I was excited to hear Tom Lehrer tribute coming to the OI Art Center Theater. And I have with us Gale McNeeley, who's doing the tribute. And last night I had the great pleasure of previewing some of the songs that he's going to be singing. You know, some of the wonderful songs that Lehrer sung, Poisoning Pigeons in the Park. We used to just howl over that. Of course, we were really close to all the parks in Cambridge where Lair actually hung out. And so it was just so cool to hear that Gail could be on the show today. And he's with us now. And Gail, okay, I got to hear about your background. First of all, we are talking about the various songs that Lair did in the 50s and the 60s. um, Poisoning Pigeons in the Park, the Vatican Rag, So Long Mom, I'm Off to Drop the Bomb. And he talked and sang about religion and politics and war. And my favorite song that he ever sung was about the scientist Werner von Braun.
Yes.
I had a boyfriend who sang that to me, I remember in high school. Um, and Gail has this beautiful voice. I was just joking with him. If his McNeely is the Scottish or the Irish McNeely, and it's the Irish, of course, and he's a marvelous Irish tenor, and of course brings that beautiful voice to the tribute. Uh, okay, so, and I know, Tom, this is not your first rodeo. Start me off with how you started as a performer.
Boy, that would be Cleveland, Ohio. And
Okay.
I usually introduce myself as Gail Joseph Patrick McNeely from County Cleveland in Ohio. And so, I guess the reason I got started in performing was my older brother, was better than me at everything. And then I saw him in a play in high school, and I thought to myself, I could do that. And so I think I might be able to do it even better. And that's what I did. And from grade school on through my years in high school, college, graduate school, acting school in New York, and then I thought I was an actor, but I could get more auditions as a singer. You probably know that you can sing 8 bars for the chorus of a Broadway musical, and get cast and get a Broadway contract. It may not be a leading role, but it's a beginning. So that's what I did. I actually went to Kent State University. I was there when the days of the massacre. I left the day before the massacre, and I never went back to graduate school. I went to the New York school. Uh, I studied with Sandy Meisner at the Neighborhood Playhouse to be an actor. And yet I found more work as a singer. And I enjoyed singing very much. I love singing to an audience. I like small audiences, like the Ojai Art Center will be a nice room with a grand piano. I'll get to see everyone that I'm singing to. So I started out really loving Shakespeare. I did the Shakespeare Festival in Cleveland. I was an intern that summer. So I've always loved performing. I was a clown for many years. I went to clown school in the Redwoods and at the Dell'Arte School and formed a clown company, and we toured Oregon, Washington, California. And then I was teaching also. I teach clown and commedia dell'arte, which is an Italian improvisational form with masks. So I guess in my career, the last 55 years, I've bounced around between different things, but always performing and always teaching.
So I was reading your bio and I loved the connections that we have. So the Commedia dell'arte. So we had in Richard's heard me say this about a million times, but I was part of a really close-knit group in high school, and we were all in performing arts. Either we were, had musical training, we played instruments, we did theater, we were all dancers, we were all singers. I mean, we were all in the performing arts, and I remember us getting together and having a teacher that was really uh, quite gifted as a high school teacher and taught commedia dell'arte, which is a, 16th, 17th century way of holding the body and letting the body be the communication vehicle. And then we picked The Imaginary Invalid by Molière because of the connection with commedia. And I remember all of us performing that and using the Commedia dell'arte training, to perform. And then when my son, you know how you have your children, and I thought, oh, my son's probably going to be like I was, really devoted to the theater and dance, and he's going to love that. And he was an athlete. He had nothing to do with theater and dance. And I tried when I was a young mom. I had a great girlfriend who was also a performer, and she studied clowning with Wavy Gravy.
Oh boy.
And Wavy Gravy had a school, I think it was on Catalina, but he had a clown school and a circus school. And I wanted to send my son Locke. I wanted to send Locke to Wavy Gravy School. And Locke said, "Oh, no, I'm an athlete." But I mean, this whole thing with using the body in commedia and in clowning. Tell me, so you were clowning. Tell me a story about that day, those days.
Those days. Well, I went to the Dell'Arte school to be a mime, I thought. Then they had a great clown teacher. His name was Donnie Osmond, and he came from Five Penny Circus in Vermont. And you never know what kind of clown is going to come out of you in the training. My clown he was named Captain Plunge, and he carried around a bedpan and a plunger, uh, which, which he talked into. Uh, and, and he was potty pilot of the year. So my poor mother, when she came to see me perform, here I had gone to a Jesuit high school, a Jesuit college. She had great hopes for me, and I turned it into a potty mouth clown for a while. I think it was a way it was a backlash against Catholic education, I guess. And I was very popular. The kids really liked me. But my clown partners made me bury that clown and do another. I became a ringmaster, Maestro Marco. We have a remarkable show for you today. And the Barney, they wanted me to shut up eventually. And so I was a silent clown, Barney, the silent clown. Uh, and I love teaching clown because everybody has a great clown inside of them. And if you give them a big enough field to play in, that clown comes out. And then that clown can play with another clown. And you come up with very original pieces that are very entertaining and very freeing for the performer. I use both commedia dell'arte, mask work, and clowning as a freeing instrument for the performer so that they can do anything. They're in touch with their comic sense. They're in touch with their body. It's very important. And I still teach where I am up here. I teach at Cal Poly sometimes, and Cuesta and Ellen Hancock, and love it. I love teaching clown and commedia.
That's marvelous. And then you actually you won, I think, for various performances where you've done other, is it one man shows? Tell me about that.
Oh yeah, one man shows. I do different ones. Some of them are cabaret, but the one I most love, and people know me for, Archie and Mehitabel. Uh, I did the musical. I had left theater. I was a clown. I was never going back on the stage, I said to people. And a friend of mine said, "How would you like to play a dancing, singing cockroach in a musical?" And so I said, "Well, sure, I would." And so Archie is a poetic cockroach that dives onto the keys of the typewriter and types out free verse poetry. And he writes stories about his best friend Mehitabel the alley cat, who in a previous incarnation was Queen Nefertiti. She was the queen of the Nile. She so I said Queen Nefertiti, but so I do this one-man show of Archie and all of his friends, not just Mehitabel the cat, but all of his friends.
Amazing. So, and what was the costume like? I can only imagine.
Oh, well, it's not so much, yeah. When you're doing many characters, you have costume pieces. Now, Archie has a brown bowler because that is what he's cartooned as. The great George Harriman did the cartoons. He's the crazy cat guy. He did the cartoons for Archie and Mehitabel for the books. And there's always a bowler. And Mehitabel, all she has is a boa. That that feminizes her, gives her a tail when she needs it, and so Mehitabel she's had so many boyfriends, and she loves to tell the audience about all her boyfriends and the fights she's had, and how she's been mistreated. You know, she's a perfect foil for Archie, and Archie's a foil for her. He's like the straight guy, and she's the zany in the piece. So I've toured this. Back in 2016, I did a tour in the country. It was the 100th anniversary of the first poem of Archie and Mehitabel, which was in the newspapers. The great Don Marquis was the writer, and he had a column in the newspaper, and that's where Archie and Mehitabel were born. So in 2016, I did the 100th anniversary show. I was lucky enough to do it in New York City at the Midtown Manhattan Library and at a little place, Jimmy's on 7th Street. And we celebrated Archie's birthday. And I still do Archie and Mehitabel. The reason I'm doing Tom Lehrer right now is because in college, I heard an album. That was that was the year that was. And it was the album he put out, I think, around 1963, 64. And it had the Vatican rag on it. And I was Catholic educated, grade school, high school, and I was here in a Jesuit college in Cleveland, and I thought it was the funniest, naughtiest song I had ever heard. And when I sang it for other Catholic guys in the dorm, they broke out laughing. They thought it was so funny. And he had so many other great songs on that album that I never forgot them. I knew them in my head. I knew enough lyrics of every song that I could sing it for someone. So when I had a chance to do a show of his material, I put together two girls and another guy and a great pianist, and we would do something like Tomfoolery, but our own version of it. And so, yeah, the Lehrer show, I did it in 2006 and 2013. And then this last July, Tom Lehrer, at 97, passed away, and he had left all of the copyrights for all of his material to the public domain. He gave it away. He said, use it, abuse it, do whatever you want with it. It's yours now. So he was a great guy. There's so much about Tom Lehrer that people, would like to know, I think. If you go on to Wikipedia, they have a lot of good information about Tom Lehrer, how he started classical piano at 7 years old. But he loved Broadway shows. He grew up on the Upper East Side of Manhattan, and his parents would take him to Broadway shows. They had enough money to do that. and uh, and he loved that music. And his mother found him a piano player who could teach him how to play Broadway tunes. And from that, he took off. And he was a prodigy in many ways. He graduated from high school at the age of 15. He was 2 years ahead of himself. He graduated from Harvard in math 2 years later. It took him 2 years to complete that degree. Then he went on and got a master's degree at Harvard. Then he went on to teaching at Harvard. And in the midst of it all, he made friends with these guys, and he had the ability to write music and sing. And so he started to do funny songs. Fight Fiercely Harvard was one of his first ones. It was a takeoff on fight songs for colleges. So he had all this talent, and it burst out in all different directions, in math, in science, and in performance and music. And he wound up at UC Santa Cruz teaching. They really wanted him for musical comedy because he was so good, but he was also a math teacher, so he did both. One class was called Math for Tenors. That's what he called his class, Math for Tenors. So yeah, anyone who wants to know, there's a lot of videos on YouTube of Tom Lehrer doing his work. It mainly comes from two concerts in Europe, one in Oslo and one in Copenhagen, because his material was too racy for American TV. They wouldn't touch it. The English had him on the show, and he wrote songs for them. That was the week that was in London. He did that for a while. But when he went to Australia, a lot of his songs were censored. They didn't want to hear jokes about Boy Scouts. They didn't want to hear that. And of course, Vatican Rag, woo, or a song like Smut, no way. And so he was censored back then. But he had what did he have? He had a 1 hour session in a recording booth where he did a whole album in 1 hour. And he made this album and he marketed it himself. It wound up, he sold 3,000 copies. Once people started to hear this, it just took off. And that was back, he was in college in the 50s. That was probably the end of the 50s, beginning of the 60s when that was all happening. And then he started to do clubs, and he performed in Boston. I know people who heard him in Boston, heard him in New York, heard him in London. And once you heard his songs, you never forgot it. He's one of the best satirists going. In fact, Daniel Radcliffe said on TV that Tom Lehrer was the best satirist of the 21st century. That's what he said. And I think it's true.
I think it's so interesting now you talk about him being censored and banned and that his best performances are recorded in overseas because and it's been so interesting just lately to hear how satirists are being banned on TV now and late night, comedians that say something that maybe is distasteful. But I think about the history of satire and Gail, I'm thinking I remember one of my most favorite courses in college. Um, we studied 17th century English satire, Alexander Pope and Jonathan Swift and some of the great satirists of England of the late 17th, early 18th century. Even some of the insurrectionist poetry, of the 17th century, and it's such a vital part of a democracy to be able to make fun of things because, in humor is terrific truth,
Mhm.
and it's a way to kind of ease into a truth where it's like, okay, and you're laughing, and then suddenly the light goes on. Oh, wow, that's really true. Um, I wonder, could you reflect on one of this, with that in mind? Could you reflect on one of the Lehrer songs that really maybe sounds more modern today to your ears?
Modern today, so many of them relate to both the time they were written and today, for sure. Um, I guess so many of the war songs, the ones that on bombs, uh, like uh, people live in two places when they listen to the song, like "Who's Next?" First, we got the bomb, and that was good because we love peace and motherhood. Then Russia got the bomb, but that's okay. The balance of power is maintained that way. Who's next? That song, and even it says Egypt's gonna get one too, just to use on you know who. So Israel's getting tense, once when in self-defense. Lord is my shepherd, says the psalm, but just in case, we better get a bomb. So that things pop out of the songs today that are universal, and a song on the Marines. As I sing "Send the Marines," I'm thinking of Los Angeles. Send the Marines. So a lot of the themes, especially the themes of war and peace, they're always with us. Um, and so many of the songs deal with that. One of the songs I have a hard time singing in this show, to a certain extent, because it's so heavy, is the one about we'll all go together when we go, and it's really true, but it's so hard to hear. It was so hard to sing. I didn't sing it until this particular time around on the show, and even then. I pull back sometimes, depending on the audience. I replace it with another song that's easier to take, like My Hometown. But uh, but that song will all go together when we go. When the air becomes Uranus, we'll all go simultaneous. And you go, whoa, whoa, yeah. When it's time for the fallout and St. Peter calls us all out, we'll just drop our agendas and adjourn. All different ways of saying, we're when it comes, if the bomb that falls on you gets your friends and neighbors too, then there'll be nobody left behind to grieve. you know. So some of the songs are very heavy topics, but he uses a melody and a tempo that makes them more spirited, and you're listening to it and can't believe what you're hearing. A lot of people, I look in their faces in the audience and they're going, "What did he just say?" That's the type of lyricist he was. What did he just say? And he was so good with words, just so good.
So, as far as the song about Werner von Braun, what's
Yeah.
the back? I've always wondered about that song. What's the background, Gale, of that?
Well, I think Werner von Braun worked in the nuclear program for the Nazis, and they were close to having a nuclear bomb. Good thing they didn't, because possibly they would have used it. Hitler wasn't really sane at the end. I don't think he would, he just wanted to hold on. So I think that was what it was about. And so people would think that you'd never tap into a resource like that, like America would never turn to the Nazis for technology. But he's a scientist. I think he knows what he's doing. Let's bring him over here and have him work for us. So that's where that song comes from, you know. Don't call him hypocritical. Say rather that he's apolitical. So once the rockets go up, who cares where they come down? That's not my department, says Werner von Braun. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I almost chose that song because I know you like that one. Uh,
Oh, yeah, well, yeah, that was so. Yeah, that was I was saying. I think that was the year that came out. I think that was I was still in high school at the time, but I remember we had that album and we played it in college in Boston, and like I said, I had a boyfriend who was um, a little bit of a math genius at the time, and that was his song that he loved to sing that. It's just and the background that you're giving is so interesting. I had no idea that he studied classical piano at the age of 7 and was just this, musical savant as well as a mathematician. It is interesting, isn't it, Gail? Um, Music and math and language going together somehow in a genius
Oh yeah.
mind.
Oh yeah, and that's yeah, it is true. Music and math are married really because of tempo and the beats and the quarter notes and the half notes. And it's true that a person who knows how to read music, a part of their brain grows that doesn't grow in anybody else's cranium. Okay. And so they can tell in an autopsy if a person knew how to read music because that part of the brain, it looks different than another person's part of the brain. I do not read music. I was not a great mathematician. I could memorize, so I memorized all the ways to figure out a problem, a math problem. But I didn't really know math, and I don't read music. I sing by ear. I've always learned by ear, and and some people didn't trust that. I remember getting a job once, and they they just had me next to the piano and they were playing all these different things and seeing if I could mimic it. And I did it perfectly. And I think they said to each other, he may not read music, but he'll remember what we teach him. So I got that job because of that, because of my memory.
Okay, so let me understand. So let's say, you're in a four-part harmony, you're the tenor,
Mhm.
and there's the score, and there's here's the baritone line, here's the tenor line, etc. You're not reading the music. How do you get that in your head?
I listened to it on the piano. I learned I learned the melody or the harmony as if it's a melody. And that's how I do it. And it's not that I don't see the notes going up and down on but I never put enough time into learning music. I was on to the next thing, So, and I thought if I can learn it just by hearing it, that's good enough. So, some people play piano by ear way before they know how to read notes, and maybe some of them never do it officially. They play it all by ear.
No, I know what you're talking about. So I have my father's mother was a quite an accomplished pianist, never really studied the piano or learned how to read music or do chords or anything like that on the piano. Just she could hear something and then play it. She could also play in different keys,
Mm.
which was amazing to me because it's like, how do you transpose when you're not thinking, "Oh, okay, that's a third down or whatever it is." And then my mom, on the other hand, she was a great mathematician and musician, and she couldn't sing by ear because she had to, this makes sense to you, Gail. She would have to adjust for her age because as she got older, her perfect pitch dropped ever so slightly. And
Huh.
so if she was just reading the notes, she'd have to adjust ever so slightly for, oh, okay, now I'm a quarter tone off. So she'd have to adjust what she was reading. And I'd say to her, like, we'd be at the Messiah sing along. I'd be like, Mom, don't read the notes. Listen to the to the orchestra. I can't do that. If the notes are there, I've got to read the notes. And so she'd have to adjust. So it's kind of a blessing that you have that ear.
Yeah, yeah, I'm so lucky. And to still be able to sing, right now, to still have my voice. I doubted when I went into the show, I wonder, is my voice still strong enough? Do I still have the complete range? And once where it came true was I wasn't singing to an audience until a couple of days before our first show in Santa Barbara. And there was students from PCPA were going to come and hear me sing my show, and only one showed up. And so I sang to that girl, and she was the best audience. I had my full voice, I didn't have to worry. I didn't have to think. I just communicated with her the lyrics of the songs, and I knew the melodies. And I have a great pianist, Paul's. He's a music director here at PCPA too. So I was so happy. Then when I went to Santa Barbara to open the run of the show, it was easy. It just it flowed. Uh, so yeah, yeah. Even as you get older, you may doubt yourself, but the voice is still there as long as you keep using it. It's a muscle. It's a little muscle, but it's a muscle. And so I'm glad I'm still singing, and I'm glad I'm doing this particular show because I have a certain enthusiasm for it, and I understand it, because I lived through that time. Uh,
Yes.
and I love listening. I mean, there's songs I'm not going to do that are quite wonderful. There's this, Whatever Happened to Hubert, about Hubert Humphrey. That's a sweet song. And then there's a song, George Murphy, Senator George Murphy. Finally, we have a senator who can really sing and dance. He can really give the people a song and dance. There are great songs that you don't get to, yeah, you can't do, 30 Tom Lehrer songs in a show. You have to pick them according to what's going to work best, And in terms of censorship, I will say that there's a cafe in San Luis Obispo that I've performed at over the years, and they have new owners and a new guy booking the talent. And it took me a while to finally get to him, and he emailed me back. And basically, he doesn't know Tom Lehrer, and it's political, religious, and a satire. Um, well, we have rules here. We're a welcoming community for migrants. We're welcoming to LGBTQ people, and we want to make sure that what you're singing isn't, it's like censorship before the fact. They want to know, what point of view does Tom Lehrer have back in the 50s and 60s? And does it go with our philosophy of business? It was really, I went, oh my God. It was easy to answer him. He's not anti-migrant, and he doesn't speak to LGBTQ issues at all in his songs. It's back in the 50s and 60s. So don't worry. There's nothing offensive about that. But of course, like in the George Murphy song, George Murphy was promoting migrant workers, and one of the lines in the song was, "Only a Mexican can stoop so low." So there's some real zingers in it that Tom Lehrer realized the prejudice that existed, at that time against Mexican Americans and the people who were working in the fields. So there are, I don't do that song because I don't want to offend anyone. I think it's not necessary to do that song because the punchline is really, we finally have a senator who can give us a song and dance. That's the punchline. And it's not worth it to offend anybody, with that line
Right.
about.
What it's interesting because what you're saying is, does a work of art live in the era in which it's done, and or does it need to be recontextualized today? And I think there's, as you say, and this is not just satire. I mean, the debate rages on, regards to like Civil War monuments and such like this, where,
Right.
you just don't know, you can't say to yourself, well, this is how it was, and that's okay, because some people might not see it that way. I want to also ask you how you put the show together. You talked about you've got a great piano. Oh, Richard's giving us a sign we have to go to quick break. But I wonder, when we get back from the break, I want to hear about your pianist. And you said that there's two other people involved in the show. Did I hear that right?
No, it's just Paul and me, just Paul and me.
Okay, so I want to know how you two collaborated on pulling the show together, how it happened, how it organically grew. Richard, let's go to a quick break. When we get back from the break, I want to hear how a master craftsman like Gale puts a show together, what the impetus is, and how it flows. what's the rapport between the accompanist and the singer, for example? Don't turn that down, Jack. Back in a second. Okay, Richard.
Okay. We have one more break and we have about 12 minutes. So we need to do two short segments and I will get the music in there so that we'll play plenty of the music. Here we go. Three, two,
Excellent.
one. You are live.
Welcome back. I'm talking with performer. I don't know if we can say a performer who's been on stage for quite a few years, Gale McNeeley. This is a Tom Lehrer tribute show that he's bringing to the Ojai Arts Center Theater. And the date is going to be November the 2nd at 3 p.m. It's a Sunday matinee, and it's a Tom Lehrer tribute show. And if you lived through the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, I was just reflecting on this was the year that was the album. I think my grandmother bought it for me in the mid 70s. I was in high school or starting high school, something like this, and I remember listening to Tom Lehrer and loving it. And now I'm talking with Gale McNeeley, who's pulled a show together, and it is a tribute show to Tom Lehrer and his music. Gale has a marvelous, marvelous Irish tenor voice. I was listening to some of those songs that Richard's recorded for. Or actually, Richard is actually going to play during this segment that I have with Gale. And Gale, how did this show come together? So you and your accompanist, did you guys together think of the show?
No, what happened was Tom Lehrer died on July 26th. And I thought, I hadn't had an idea for a show in a while. And I went, I need to do a tribute. When Pete Seeger died, I did a Pete Seeger tribute at that time too. So the problem is finding a good accompanist. And the good accompanists are busy. All right. So I thought, I don't know. I had worked with a woman for 15 years and she passed away last year. And so I don't have a piano accompanist. And so I asked around, and I'm in Santa Maria near the Pacific Conservatory Theater and also the conservatory where the kids are trained and the college. And so I wrote to the college to see, do you have any accompanists at the college? And they said Paul Mazeroski, and he works at PCPA too. And so I contacted him, told him, I wrote an email to 3 different accompanists. He responded and said, I love Tom Lehrer. Yeah, let's do it. And so it was as easy as that. And we did a read through of all the songs, and one, he could read the music beautifully to begin with. He laughs at the material. He enjoys the jokes. And he's the one who set up the recording for us. I didn't have any recordings of the show or me singing Tom Lehrer material. Actually, I probably have some old videos of it, but nothing high quality. So that's how we got together, and that's why and he enjoys doing the show. He gets a kick out of it, and the audience. He thought our Santa Barbara audience was great, and he had a good time. And we're making a little money, enough to, it's especially important for him because he's a young married guy, and he picks up gigs here and there, and he chose to work with me, so I'm very lucky. Paul Marzolkowski, a good Irish guy, and so
Yeah, right. And that was just the luck of the draw that you found him and he found you.
right.
Yeah.
And then I proposed the songs that I thought would speak to the modern audience. And I'm changing them as I go because some audiences I think are ready for more. I'm going to do more Catholic satire. This Saturday, I'm doing a show at the home of a friend of mine, and a lot of the people grew up Catholic. And so I also do a character, Sister Dominiki Niki Niki Niki, who is a singing nun who's running for Pope. And so yeah, I've done this character. I initiated this character. So she's going to do some of her material at the show on Saturday because I know the people will enjoy it. And who knows, I may bring it out at the Ojai show too. I'll see. That way I'd add a short second act if I did Sister Dominique. And she's a fun character. She's innocent. She wants the Catholic Church to be the very best it can be. And she thinks that children should have good sex education. And so she's rewritten The Sound of Music. It's called The Sound of Hormones. And so she does her satire. The difference between my songs and Tom Lehrer's songs, if one difference is that he wrote all his own melodies. He didn't do parodies of songs. He did all his own melodies except the elements where he used I am the very model of a modern major general. But me, I wrote a song, Edward Snowden, whistleblower, let us know. And so, so I take a song we all know and I do a parody of it. And Tom did original material.
Richard's giving us a sign. Hey, Richard, are you there? So we have to go to quick break in a few minutes, Gale. But my question for you, there's Richard. Let's go to a quick break, and then I have a question for Gale when we get back from the break. So this was occasioned upon the death of Tom Lehrer at 97 years old, where Tom left all of his songs to the public domain. And Gale said, okay, this is the year I'm going to do a tribute to Tom. And just in the few minutes that we have left, and when we get back from the break, I want to hear if there's something else under your sleeve, if there's something coming up that you're doing, Gale. Let's go to quick break. We get back from the break. Gale will tell us. And then another shout out, the performance is at the Ojai Arts Center Theater. It's 3 p.m. It's Sunday, November the 2nd. Absolutely going to be a load of fun. As you can hear, Gale's going to bring Tom's songs, but he also might bring his some of his characters who actually sing. Sister Dominique, Niki might come.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, don't turn that down. Back in a minute.
And while she is, you're fine, Elizabeth. While she is getting a refill on her cup there, I will ask you your comparison between Tom Lehrer, who I'm aware of very much. I heard a lot of his stuff as I was a kid growing up in the 60s. But my favorite satirist, also passed, Stan Freberg. My best friend and I used to
yeah, I understand.
used to do his one double album of the United States of America, the early years, and we used to do that stuff in school. You know, we would just quote the lines, and we just had so much fun with it. But I love satire; it is just a wonderful, wonderful medium. Okay, Elizabeth, you do what you're going to do, and this will be the final segment. Okay. In three,
Okay.
2, 1, you're live.
Welcome back. I'm here celebrating a fantastic show, the Ojai Arts Center Theater. Tom Lehrer, it's a tribute show, and this is Gale McNeeley will be singing and performing some of the songs that you all know. Poisoning Pigeons in the Park, The Vatican Rang, So Long Mama, I'm Off to Drop the Bomb. Talks about songs about the Boy Scouts, the Marines, songs about Vanner von Braun. God, I love that song. And so, you have to come and see Gale do his tribute. Tom Lehrer died at 97 this past summer, I understand. And he left all of his songs to the public domain so we can all enjoy his without copyright. And then, Gale, my question was, do you have something up your sleeve? Are you putting together, maybe you and Paul, are you putting together something new?
Well, Paul and I haven't talked about another show yet. For me, in the next year, I want to bring Archie and Mehitabel back. Here's what's happened. Archie and Mehitabel was created in 1916. And so librarians for decades have known Archie and Mehitabel. But it's so many years ago now that most librarians are not aware of even who Archie and Mehitabel are. And Don Marquis was considered the heir to Mark Twain after Mark Twain died. Don Marquis, some people say that Archie and Mehitabel is the best light poetry of that era. And yet the poetry goes right along with historical events. There's an annotated Archie Mehitabel that starts with the first poem, and you can go through World War I with Archie. You know, there's poems about what's happening, about the Roaring Twenties and the flappers. Mehitabel is the first flapper. So the material is very rich. But as a promoter, if I'm always promoting myself, I have to convince librarians to give it a try, even to watch a short video of the material. So, but I still think because so many poems are in my head and I'm the only one-man Archie and Mehitabel show that I know. There have been short ones by certain people. There was a man in Cambria who I'm going to forget his name right now. He was doing it in his 80s. He was doing Archie and Mehitabel in his 80s because he really loved the material. Simon Wilder, I didn't want to forget that name. Simon Wilder from Cambria, California. He was a treasure, and he and I became friends. So Archie and Mehitabel will be the direction that I'm moving in, and I'd love to do more movies and video. I played a wizard in a mini series, and I had such fun doing it. But I don't go down to LA to audition for things. You know, people have to find me, and they did. So I got to do a role. But personally, I'd like to do more a movie and TV and video and minis. What do they call them? They have all different ways of presenting. You can be online in many different ways. So the little series. That's what I'd like to do.
Fantastic. Well, just another shout out. Come and join us. Ojai Art Center Theater, 3 p.m. this Sunday, the Tom Lehrer tribute show. You've lived through Tom and you understand the era and how prescient it is today, the role of satire, the importance of satire in a democracy. That was Tom. And this is being brought to us by Gale McNeeley, longtime performer and a fantastic singer, as you'll hear. Thank you, Gail. I look forward to the show.
Hey, you're welcome. And it's in the art gallery, not the theater, in case people, there's a beautiful art gallery with a grand piano. That's where the show is, Sunday, the 2nd of November at 3 p.m.
Fantastic. I'll see you there.
Thank you, Liz.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh boy, she just jumped right out of there, didn't she?